First, I must thank the ABA Commission on Women for the honor of being one of the recipients of this year's Margaret Brent Award. It is truly a privilege to be surrounded by so many distinguished women in the legal profession, including many past and no doubt future recipients of the Margaret Brent Award, and to be included with this year's exceptional recipients. Thanks also to the New York delegation to the ABA House of Delegates, under the leadership of Jim Silkenet, our state delegate, for nominating me for this honor. I follow in the footsteps of many distinguished New York women who have received this honor. And our delegation includes former ABA President Robert McCreight, who created the ABA Commission on Women and appointed its first chair, Hillary Rodham Clinton. I certainly do not stand here alone in receiving this honor. I have been the beneficiary of the support and encouragement from two giants in the law, quintessential public servants who throughout my career promoted my involvement in significant professional activities. The late Robert B. McKay, former dean of the New York University School of Law, and Alex Forger, who as state delegate selected me in his stead to serve on the ABA Board of Governors. I have also benefited from the support of two exceptional women role models who over the years have reached out to me and provided me with many special opportunities to expand my involvement with the courts and with the profession. Our superb former Chief Judge of the State of New York, Judith Kaye, whose abiding friendship I have cherished since our days at Barnett and at law school, and Roberta Ramo, the first woman president of the ABA, with whom I have enjoyed a special friendship from the time I first served under her inspired leadership. These are just a few of the many distinguished colleagues in both the public and private sectors, many of them men and women in this room, who have been so supportive throughout my career and whom I'm privileged to count as my friends. I have also been blessed with a wonderful family. My special husband, early in our marriage, while I was still a student at Barnard, encouraged me to pursue a legal career and put me through law school. He has always been a most forward-thinking husband and wholeheartedly supported my desire to work at legal aid, and during these past 6 years, supported my working in Washington, D.C. as LSE president, even though it meant time away from home and constant travels across the country. He has made it possible for me to have a career and to live a life I never would have dreamed. Last month, as you heard, we celebrated our 50th wedding anniversary. A deep, lasting, and loving thank you. In honoring my family, I remember with everlasting gratitude and love my beloved parents, who through example and by teaching indelibly shaped my character, my values, my work ethic, and my commitment to giving to others less fortunate. I also wish to recognize my children, Craig and Roger, and Carolyn and Sloan, each of whom I'm so proud are individuals of substantial accomplishment and who have provided 6 wonderful grandchildren. Looking back on my career, I am reminded of when I first began law school in 1960, with only a handful of other women in my class. As one of the very few married women in law school, I was asked why I wanted to go to law school since I already had a husband. How attitudes have changed. Actually, both my sons attended law school with me. My eldest son, Craig, who is here, was born the summer between my first and second year of law school. And my younger son, Roger, who is also here, was born right after my interview with a character and fitness committee of the Appellate Division, First Department in New York. When I went for that interview, then 9 months pregnant, the elderly gentleman who interviewed me, said, unfortunately, he could not find a reason not to approve my application for admission to the bar, but that he was absolutely certain I would never practice a day. Of course, I knew he was wrong. The path of my legal career was set while in law school, where it was my very good fortune to have Professor Robert B. McKay as my teacher and advisor. He guided, encouraged, and inspired me to pursue a career devoted to public interest and directed me to the Legal Aid Society. And thus began my 37 years at the Legal Aid Society in New York City, followed by the next 6 as president of LSC in Washington, where I am immensely proud to continue to work with the more than 4,000 LSC-funded civil legal aid lawyers throughout the country. During the career, I've been privileged to work with a remarkable and exceptionally talented group of legal aid lawyers, many of whom are women who do incredible work. And I'm very touched today that so many of my colleagues from my legal aid family and from my LSC family are here today, and I thank you for being here. I also wish to acknowledge my longstanding friends and colleagues from SCLAID. And on behalf of all civil legal aid attorneys, particularly those at the Legal Aid Society of New York and those in the 918 LSC-funded offices throughout the country, who work every day to fulfill the pledge of justice for all, and on behalf of the clients they serve, I must take this opportunity to say a very few words on the concept of justice for all, which is one of the foundations of our country. We are a nation built upon the concept of equal justice for all. The preamble to our Constitution affirms that its central purpose is to establish justice. We pledge allegiance, as we did earlier today, to the flag with liberty and justice for all. The phrase equal justice under law is inscribed on the U.S. Supreme Court building, and it is a bedrock legal principle cherished by Americans. But we are still a long way from providing access to justice for all Americans. It is an ideal that is particularly challenged today. Before the recession began, about 51 million Americans were poor enough to be eligible to receive civil legal aid from LSC-funded programs. This figure includes 17.6 million children living in poverty. Looking ahead, based on previous economic downturns, we can expect the eligible population for LSC-funded services to increase by the end of 2009 to at least 62 million Americans, or about 1 in 5 Americans. For many of these Americans in need, our work is critical to their economic and personal survival, as when we assist a family with children from being evicted and falling into homelessness, when we save a battered woman from a violent and abusive relationship, when we help a young mother maintain custody of a child or gain access to necessary health care, or when we save a grandmother from losing her home to foreclosure. The overwhelming majority of our clients are women struggling to keep their families together and their children safe, fed, and housed. Our clients include the most vulnerable in our society who have nowhere else to turn. But there is a serious justice gap in America. The difference between what we promise, the ideal of justice for all, and what we provide, in how many poor Americans actually get civil legal assistance. As you saw in the video in our groundbreaking report, the Justice Gap Report, LSC documented that for every client that LSC legal aid programs are able to assist, one applicant is turned away because of lack of program resources. Other studies from several states suggest that as many as 80% of individuals in need may be turned away because of lack of resources. With the impact of the economic recession, its rising unemployment rates, the continuing foreclosure crisis, the effects of devastating natural disasters, the number is increasing significantly, with millions of Americans facing poverty for the first time. We must close the justice gap, and to do that, we need the help of everyone in this room. As leaders in the legal profession, whether as judges, bar leaders, corporate lawyers, individual lawyers, law school deans and faculty, business leaders, or government officials, you can assist by supporting increased federal funding, providing enhanced pro bono assistance, developing effective pro se initiatives, securing additional financial assistance from state and local governments and private funders, and creating and strengthening strategic partnerships and collaborations that can help meet the legal needs of the poor. We need to keep in mind the words of Supreme Court Justice Lewis Powell, who said, "Equal justice under law is perhaps the most inspiring ideal in our society. It is fundamental that justice should be the same in substance and availability without regard to economic status." I have been fortunate to go to work every day to try to give some semblance of reality to the goal of equal access to justice, and to work with such extraordinarily able and dedicated colleagues. It has been the most rewarding career imaginable in providing legal assistance to the most vulnerable in a society and giving voice to those unable to represent themselves. On behalf of all civil legal aid attorneys, I want to thank the Commission for this recognition of our work. I hope you will join me in accepting as all of our responsibilities the important role we can play in helping to provide equal access to justice to the less fortunate, and that working together, our nation's promise of equal access to justice will one day mean not just for some, but truly for all. Thank you.
They're going to play your video.